What if the other person isn't taking care of themselves? You're working on yourself. How do you work through those issues?
You never know until you try. You never know until you put some action in it and stay consistent. Whether it's not about action, it's about action over time, which develops new ruts in the road, develops new habits, new skills.
You're really pushing. You were hustling. You're still an entrepreneur today. How do you strike the balance? What changed to make it so that you're more irreplaceable?
I changed my relationship with money. Keith Yackey said to me, what drove you? You build exercises like you're a professional education director. You're insane with it. What drove you? And when I said I wanted to be this irreplaceable husband of my life and never want to leave, like want to be with forever, want to hang with, want to have sex with. And he said, so why isn't it the Irreplaceable Man?
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Flow Over Fear podcast, where it is our mission to help you to rise above fear and realize your ultimate potential in leadership and life. I'm your host, Adam Hill, and it is my goal to share with you the human side of high performance. My guests share their experience with fear, anxiety, struggle, challenge, and most importantly, despite all of it, how they rose above it to achieve incredible results. So, if you're ready to rise up, let's get started. Hey everyone, welcome to Flow Over Fear. I have a great guest today who is an expert on relationships and men's personal development. Ian Lobas is a men's personal development and relationship coach dedicated to helping successful entrepreneurs, business owners, and executives become irreplaceable men and husbands. Ian's wife gave him an ultimatum to change or lose her forever. And that's when Ian embarked on a deep personal development journey that led him to his true purpose. He has developed a formulaic approach to coaching that includes structure, strategy, systems, support, and trackable curriculum. His program has helped thousands of men across the globe achieve sustainable growth and become their most authentic selves. Ian's podcast, The Irreplaceable Man, is ranked in the top 1% worldwide, and it is amazing. Learn more about Ian and his coaching program at www.irreplaceableman.com. And I had the privilege of being on Ian's podcast recently, and it's an amazing conversation. You got an amazing show. I'm glad you're bringing it back. I'm excited to talk with you today because you got a lot of wisdom to share. So thanks for being here, my friend.
Yeah, man. Thank you. You know what's interesting is I think my ego used to get really excited when someone would read an intro. Now it's a pride thing of like, yeah, I built that. I did that. That's like direct alignment of, went through these challenging times, and instead of crumbling under those challenges or caving in or blowing it up, to be able to channel that energy and develop these exercises and curriculum and build a coaching business to help other dudes. I mean, how much better could you ask for?
Yeah, you really can. And I'm glad you celebrate that, because there's two reactions I get when I read people's bios. And I like to read people's bios because I want to reflect what people how people represent themselves. Yeah. And a lot of sometimes, people kind of get a little wincy, like, I don't know, I don't like, but some people, like yourself, it's like, yeah, there's a lot of pride in that. And you should feel it. You should own it, man, because it's awesome.
I think before I felt like an imposter. Probably like a year ago, even as little as that, like I felt like an imposter because I've reinvented myself several times in my 40 years on the planet. And sometimes I feel like, but I was a successful real estate agent, and now I'm this like men's coach, like for relationships and marriage. Like, who the hell am I? But I felt the same way when I became a real estate agent like 12 years ago. Like, I grew up in the shipping business and with my dad, and I was an expert at shipping and logistics and things like that. And then all of a sudden people are like, oh yeah, this is Ian, my friend, the real estate agent. And I'm like, no, I'm just kind of like, I'm a shipping guy, but I have a real estate license. So I feel like the imposter syndrome will follow you for a certain amount of time until you're in action long enough to gather enough evidence to support against your crazy theory that you're an imposter.
Yeah. So, do you find that that's a subjective thing that you have to define when that is for you? Like, when that imposter syndrome is not telling the truth?
I catalog the evidence. I had to, like, that's a part of one of our exercises in our curriculum is making sure that you're cataloging or documenting the evidence that doesn't support or does support your crazy or rational theories. So my irrational theory is I'm an imposter. And then the rational theory is, no, I'm a really great coach. I've got 7,000 hours in coaching and being coached, and I've got so many clients around the world. And so that evidence severely outweighs the irrational theory, which is the emotional theory. So when you read that, I was like, yeah, that is me, and I'm really fucking proud of that. Like, that is me. That's really amazing. And I think it also came from owning every aspect of the business. Like I was just telling you before we recorded, I had this big real estate business that I was running. I did everything myself for the first year, hated hated all of it. I hated doing all that. I just wanted to go out and talk to people and hang out. And so when I started leveraging, that's what you were taught. Leverage, 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 delegate, delegate, delegate. Only do the things that you do great and leverage everything else. And when I built my coaching business, it was just me for the first couple years. And then, it's only 3 years old at this point. I've been coaching for a lot longer than that, but really the official company started with Men on Purpose back in March of 2020. And then in January this year, we rebranded to Irreplaceable Man, which is what it was supposed to be all along. I was just scared. Please call me out on that and we can talk about that. I'll be happy to share.
Definitely.
But like, I started getting people in and VAs in and hiring staff and all these people to help me build this thing. And all I was doing was spinning wheels, and it was making money and it was doing okay, but it just wasn't hitting the vision. And I kept thinking, man, it's hitting a ceiling. Like, what the hell? This thing should be so big for the authenticity and like drive and determination I have, and just the calling and the alignment with my purpose. Like, this should be so much bigger. And when I got really clear that it needed to be Irreplaceable Man, and instead of being general, men's development coaching and life coaching and performance coaching, it became relationships and marriage coaching. And then I let everybody go. It took off.
Oh, really?
Yep.
So you let everybody that was involved in that go, and you started from scratch essentially with yourself, and you just followed your own purpose.
Some quit. Most I just said, hey, we're going to move on.
Yeah.
And some guys will be with me again. It's just, I needed to step into this thing and change the mindset around like how I handle my business, how I know my business. This is the conversation that morphs right into our marriage. Like, you need to slow down. You need to stop hiring a therapist and a counselor and like focus on you. That's what, literally that's what I learned and practiced when I built this business that I teach people to do the same thing with. Yeah. And it just so happens, ironically, that the same thing I advise people to do with their marriages to get them back on track and to reignite them is the same thing I had to do to get my business really on track and reignite. It's crazy. And not crazy at the same time.
Yeah. And that gets into something interesting, because I've always, I've been, really digging into recently this idea that business is really mostly about, let me
hang on.
Pause here. Yeah. All right. Coming back from the Riverside feed. Let's see, where were we? So you were talking about
taking responsibility.
Yeah. So you just want to kind of jump back into that?
Yeah. Okay. After our technical difficulties, we're plagued, man. Yeah. So the thing that the business taught me that I realized just when you were reading my bio was, that you got to own your shit right off the bat. And you can use others for guidance, for support, for, like you said in my bio, like structure and systems. And you got to be really careful who you model after. It's really all about you. You've got to focus on you and make yourself the priority and say, like, look, if I'm going to fix, especially in my case, like if I'm going to fix my marriage, like I got to own this. And I can't make excuses, and I can't go out and read a ton of books and be an info addict. I can't hire a bunch of people and pretend like they're going to do the work for me. I've got to just buckle down and own every part of me that isn't the man that she wants.
Right.
And that's where the replaceable man is. That's who I was. I was terrified of being replaced. And so that fear I channeled into, like the energy and the fear, I channeled into making these exercises. And then I started teaching other guys what I was learning. And I found that to be really cool. And then when I started taking the business online, I took the old adage from my real estate business and I just started hiring a ton of people. Like, oh, you'll build this and I'll take on a partner and I'll do this and do that. The whole time I should have just owned the shit on my own, fought through the internal, stuff and the breakdowns and the fears and the insecurities that I was going through, work through those things, I just would have been farther faster. That's all. I mean, it's all work. I mean, the business is incredible. However, and it's always been incredible. I mean, even since 2014, when I kind of opened my coaching business, which was a secret business back then, until 2020, like it did really well. It just, I had to get out of my own way and realize that I am not being this irreplaceable person for others. I'm not being an irreplaceable real estate agent. I wasn't being an irreplaceable coach. I wasn't being an irreplaceable husband. So that's how this whole thing came about, is like when you step back and you realize that you can't blame anybody, you've got to take this all on yourself, regardless of whether guys are cussing at their speakers or cussing at this thing right now going, no, but what about her, man? She's got responsibilities. I'm like, oh yeah, I get it. It took two of you to mess this relationship up in some capacity.
Right.
It's your thing. It's on you to make it work. It's on you to make your business work. It's on you to make your body work. Like it's on you. And the moment that you can adapt that mindset, that it's all on me, then I'll go out and get the resources I need. And I'm going to execute every bit of this assembly line, and I'm going to figure it out. And then I'll hire people to run the assembly line. After I figure it out, that's where the magic is. And it's much tougher, yet it's much more sustainable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's and the way that you put that is interesting, because you don't hear that a lot in today's society. Like a lot of people are just really quick, like hire out this, outsource this, outsource that. And even to the point where you mentioned, a bit ago, like, hiring counselors and coaches. So, but really it's just taking responsibility for it first and going forward. How did you figure that out? Because, in that time, in your bio, and in your previous life, you talked about being overwhelmed and, overworked. So how did you figure out to focus on the right things and move in the right direction?
Well, one, you got to figure out the fuel source. So the fuel source was insecurity. What's the fuel source behind that? A lot of different things, right? Not being good enough, not being accepted, being rejected. My whole family lineage, which is all entrepreneurs, they're going to be pissed off at me. They taught me to be an entrepreneur, which means you're a provider.
Right.
So if I'm not a great provider, then I'm nobody, and my values tied into money. And so all the money became the nucleus, and everything just became the ring around it, or the rings around it. And so that's one of those things. The other thing is, you really got to step back and understand, what are you trying to tackle? Because you know how many guys go after, they got 14 different coaches. They're in 17 different masterminds. They've got seminars every weekend. They read 84 books this year. And you're like, well, how's your life, bro? And you're like, it's getting there. And you're like, wow, well, you do a lot of work. Are you just putting a blindfold on and just like throwing darts? And I think I did that in the beginning. Then I started to understand, okay, this is a foundation. This is a building. If it's a building, then I have to start at the foundation. And the foundation is going to be the scariest part. It's your traumas, your programming, your conditions from childhood, your shit your parents did or didn't do, the stuff the school programmed you with, and the first girlfriend that broke up with you and how she hurt you, and you shifted after that and went a little bit off this course versus straight on course. And like, you really got to start to dig to the foundation. So in at the end of 2015, we started having conversations about the marriage isn't working. And that's when my daughter was born, end of 15. And then what did I do? I became an information addict. I became a go-getter with personal development, joined a couple masterminds, right? Everything I just described.
Right.
Went the whole year, read 65 books, went to 18 different things, spent ungodly amounts of money on growth and coaches and personal development. And then that December 2016, a year later, she's like, I'm done. And she's like, you have to change or I have to go, and I'm taking the baby. And I was like, yeah, but I should want to change and have to change for me. And I don't really want to change. I think I'm okay. Like, I'm providing for the family. Isn't that enough? She's like, bro, that's 1% of your job. That's 1% of your commitment. That's it. Like, I need you to show up for me, for the baby, for yourself. Like, everybody gets you before us, including you. You don't get you before your clients. And so, like, clients, friends, people that were stroking ego, people that were giving me the dopamine hit. And so the hardest part was, okay, I am going to lose my best friend, and I'm going to lose this marriage because I am not willing to dig in and figure out that fuel source that's driving the insecurity or the fear and why I'm acting the way I'm acting. So I get on the phone. I'm like really upset. Got on the phone with my coach at the time. I still have a picture of it. Man, the guy was like freaking screaming at me. And I got a picture of him like putting his finger in this angry face on FaceTime. And he said to me, what do you want to do? And I said, I don't know. I'll probably, just like, she can just take all the money. I don't give a shit. I'll move back in with my parents. I'm 33 years old. Like, I'm fine with that. I'm making a ton of money. I'll just keep making money. I'll bank a ton. I'll get into financial freedom faster. Like, that was my answer. My coach is like, you're an idiot. You're an idiot. I've met your wife. You're an idiot. You have a 1-year-old, man. Like, your daughter's going to grow up without a dad in her house. Like, you're an idiot. And he said to me, I've been married 4 times. That's what he said. And I said, what's that like? And he goes, let me just tell you what it's like to be replaced. Dude, I'm telling you right there, to my deathbed, I will remember that conversation. My entire business is built around it. And he said, you are going to, you're going to drive up to a house one day and you see a couple cars in the driveway that you're most likely paying for because that was your commitment to the relationship. And you're going to walk up to a house that you're most likely paying for because that was your commitment to the relationship. And your car's probably not as cool as the cars in the driveway because, it's like, it's sucking you dry. Like, so,
Right.
And you're going to walk up the stairs, you're going to knock on the door, ring the doorbell, whatever. Some guy's going to answer and you're going to say, hey, what's up, man? My kid's ready. And he's going to say, yeah. And I think a lot of guys who are listening they might be in this situation. I guarantee 100% without fail, they have regrets. They have regrets. Didn't do everything they could have. So, then this guy's going to call my kids to come down. My kids are going to say goodbye to that guy first and then say hello to me. And as I'm walking down the stairs, watching my kids leaving this other person's house where my ex-wife is inside, like he said to me, I want you to close your eyes and I want you to think about the pain and the regret you're going to feel in that moment and how much you're going to hurt and how much you're going to blame yourself and how hard you're going to be on yourself, knowing that as a smart, intelligent guy, that the only reason why you're walking down the stairs of some other man's house is because you weren't willing to do the work on you. And I'm like, fuck. Okay. And he goes, dude, this is an inward journey. This isn't a marriage therapy journey. Marriage therapists are not going to help your marriage because they can't help the two components in the marriage that make up the marriage. You're not going to counseling. You're not hiring some random coach. This is about you. So the journey is about you. The outcome isn't saving your marriage. The journey is about becoming the best version of you. And I was like, okay, I got it. And I got clear and I started journaling and like all my journals are on this bookshelf back here. There's like 50 of them. And I went and I read it and I said, he said to me, who do you want to become? And I said, I want to become an irreplaceable. I want to become an irreplaceable husband my wife would never fucking leave. And he said, then set out on that journey and you'll save your marriage. And I was like, damn, okay. So I set out on this journey of personal development and growth to understand the roots and the foundational aspects and the fire, right? The fuel sources that drove this man that I was being, which was aggressive. And we have a assessment called the Replaceable Man assessment that people can grab for free. It's inside of our Facebook group, the Irreplaceable Man community. And inside it has 10 different avatars, which is the Replaceable Man avatar, which is the fearful little boy, traumatized version, inauthentic version of you shows up as one of these 10 guys, or probably a lot of them. And so I was showing up as aggressive, throwing money at problems, information addict, right? And I started understanding how and why I was doing that. And there was a lot about rejection in there. There was a lot about my value to the world and my purpose and my mission. And I was just lost. And the only thing I knew how to do, and it also was the formula to get me what I needed, which was acceptance and approval, was make a lot of money. And so I was just running like that. And I almost got to the point where I made a very crucial error in judgment to let my wife and kid go because the money was such an important piece of my life that it was my lifeblood. Like it literally was how I woke up and I went to bed, like thinking about how I'm going to make more money to be more significant in the world.
Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing that. And I wanted to let you go on with that because it was a powerful story and a powerful representation of you. It's not like you just kind of got into personal development after your wife gave you a wake up call. You were into it way before that, but the motivation was different. the motivation before that was almost it sounds like it was almost fueling or fueled by your insecurity. And that was the fuel source, as you were saying. But it wasn't until you dug in really, really deep and found out the motivation that you started to shift gears, and that personal develop started to help you. Because there are a lot of personal development addicts out there, and I count myself amongst them. When I look at that stuff, I get immersed in that.
Yeah, it's fun.
Yeah.
You just have to have an intentionality. You got to know like you wouldn't go to a doctor and say, hey, listen, man, just write me like 65 prescriptions. I got this wrong with me. And the guy goes, well, what's wrong with you? And you go, I'm just not feeling like myself. And he goes, well, here's 65 prescriptions. Yeah. Like, what's going to happen? I mean, it's literally the same exact thing. Your body's going to react. Then you'll take more pills to counteract those pills. I mean, it's most Americans, right? The average American has 7 prescriptions, 2 of which are beneficial, 5 of which counteract the other ones. So the information addict is just an unintentionalized version of you. Yeah. And so when you can understand that you have to dig into the foundational level and make the commitment to do that, then your personal growth journey becomes really intentional. I see these guys all the time online, or I've been in these seminars and I'm like, oh my God, this is so surface level. Nobody can do anything with this. You're going to go home and you're going to go, oh, well, it made sense there, but it doesn't make sense here. So like, I'm just supposed to like journal these things every morning and my life changes. Like, because the guy on stage is going, I did this and my entire life changed, and I drive a Lamborghini, and look at my wife, she's incredibly gorgeous. And you go, yeah, I could have that if I do this. And he goes, yeah, and this is my seminar. And you have to remember that they're selling you shit, right? Yeah. And they have an agenda behind it. That's why I made our coaching business, like the first 2 calls that I get on with people, I don't pitch them. I don't say a word. Then I tell them that first 2 minutes on the call, like, hey, bro, this call's about you. I'm not going to pitch you. If for some reason you decide that you're ready to roll, then you stop me and you go, hey, man, I'm in. Stop. Let's roll. And a lot of guys do that. Yeah. But like, I want to make sure the value is really present, and that I understand your situation, so that you're not just getting in to be another info addict and just grab another thing. Because I just don't want my purpose, my vision, my company to be a part of your info gathering sessions. I want it to be something that actually changes and tweaks you. I'll tell you what really was the catalyst to change is future projecting regret. That's what really started to help me understand not only what I would think in the future, but what I would feel in the future. So I future projected the regret that I would feel in the future. And
it was an example of that. What your coach walked you through with your wife.
Yeah, that was the first session. Well, that was the first iteration. And then every single day I started channeling, like, picture her with another guy. Picture you're picking your kids up from her wedding. Picture that, you're looking all over Facebook and all you see is how happy your children are with some other dude. And I'm like, oh my God, I don't think I can live. I just don't. And I did it in a space where I calmed the ego side of me, the prideful, narcissistic side of me. And I calmed that down. So I do like breath work or meditation or go on a run or something. And then I leveled up that emotional side of me, like really tapped into those emotions to feel that. I suggest everybody do that.
Yeah. I mean, so you start with the priming, like your breath work, your meditation, you kind of get your mind at ease, and then you get into that future projecting regret. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Tim Ferriss has something that I started to use, which is called fear casting, which is like, the more that you can think about the things that you're hypothetically fearful of, or that will hypothetically happen in the future, the less power they have. And so I started doing fear casting, and then just kind of brought that back in, and then sort of adapted it to what I needed it to be. Remember, the breath work, and a lot of guys in my world don't want to do breath work. They don't like it. It's foo-foo, or it's weird, or it makes them feel weird, which it does. Yeah. But the breath work brings the central nervous system down and allows you to be a little bit more present, and that autonomic nervous system or parasympathetic nervous system isn't firing on this side. So you can actually tap into your emotions and feelings, which are a little bit more honest on the other side. Yeah. That's how you get to the real foundational roots of things. So you can start chopping, you know?
Yeah, I feel the same way, especially, I mean, with breath work, I know it is kind of weird and like you look weird and you feel weird, but
Right.
here's the thing. I mean, like I wake up with morning anxiety. I mean, there's, that's just my daily thing. I wake up
Yeah.
and I have anxiety. It's just like my default, but that's the first thing I do in the morning is breathing exercises. And
Yeah.
those are the things that ground me. And it kind of does set that norm and creates that pattern for the day.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, even if you were talking about that scenario with your wife and like going and visiting her at another man's house or
Yeah.
that you're paying for, I was going there, in my mind, and it's just like, wow, that's like, yeah, I don't want that to happen. What do I have to change in my life to
Right.
make sure
Right.
that I'm doing
Right.
that? It's incredible.
It's painful. You got to
Yeah,
know it because you either going to face the pain and make changes now, right? It's the pain of action in the present versus
yeah.
the pain of regret in the future. One you can change, one you can't change, and one is forever and just an inevitable if you don't make a decision now. Well, regardless of whether you make a decision now, you'll have a result. I didn't want to live with that. I didn't want to deal with that. I didn't want to have to live another, 60, 70, whatever years, knowing that I could have done something. And yeah, you could argue, well, eventually you get over it. Eventually you'd get remarried.
Mhm.
Eventually eventually you might have more kids, eventually. But I would still know that I did not do everything I could have for that first relationship, that first marriage. And I would take that to my grave. And I just did not want that fuel source, which you can never turn off. It would be an eternal flame burning in you. I
Mhm.
just didn't want that plaguing me. You're looking at your 20-year-old kid and if you're clear and open and honest with them, they're going to tell you, why didn't you make it work?
Mhm.
What if my kid said that to me? We're on a camping trip and they're, 20 and 25 years old. Well, and I only had one at that point. What if they said, hey, Dad, what happened to you and Mom way back when? Why did I grow
Mhm.
up without you? Why did I grow up with, Steve? And I go, well, your mom and I just couldn't work it out. How many guys do you hear say that? Yeah, irreconcilable differences. We just couldn't work it out. And you're
Yeah.
like, and like, if I'm honest with her, I'm going to go, because I failed you and I
Mhm.
failed me and I failed your mom and I failed to step up and actually handle my shit and get myself together and do the work on me. And your life was affected and completely altered because of my failure to own me.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
wasn't okay with that. I was not okay with that.
Yeah.
So those are all my future projections, and they hurt, and I cried a lot, and it like gave me major anxiety, and I was, looking for Xanaxes, which I didn't use, but like if you don't do that type of work, you'll never understand what the consequences look like. You'll just understand what the current looks like, and then in 10
Mhm.
years from now, you hear those couples that like get remarried when they
Yeah.
change, right? They get
Right.
remarried because they become the irreplaceable versions of both themselves that each other knew they could be, that they knew the other one was possible of being. They just weren't willing to do the work at that point. Yet then they went and did the work and then boop, came back
Sure.
together 10 years
Yeah.
later, 5 years later.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and then so yeah, and it kind of goes back to one of the things you said, which is the journey is becoming the best about becoming the best you.
Yeah.
And so that what I'm hearing in that is that you can't change the other person. Am I right about that? I mean, there's
No.
even in therapy, that you can't really change the two because you can't focus on changing the other person. So you can only focus on yourself. Switching the scenarios there, what what if you can't, what if the other person isn't taking care of themselves? What if that's a problem, and you're working on yourself? How do you work through those issues?
You'll never know until you try. You know what I mean? You never know
Yeah.
until you put some action in it and stay consistent. Whether it's not about action, it's about action over time, which
Right.
develops new ruts in the road, develops new habits, new skills. I mean, I can tell you right now from all of the guys that I coach and deal with, your wife isn't coming along the journey because she doesn't trust you on the journey. One,
Mm-hmm.
she doesn't trust that you're going to change. She probably feels a certain way about herself, like maybe she's not worthy or worth it. And like you also have to incorporate her programming, her traumas too.
Yeah.
So there is no such thing as, but my wife's not doing the work too. It's her life, her journey, her time frame. Stop focusing on her, focus on you, right?
Yeah.
What about my wife? Like that was my fear. I'm
Sure.
doing so much personal development, I'm going to leave my wife behind. And somebody told me, they said, when you're doing the right kind of growth in you, your wife will always want to follow along. She'll be motivated and inspired by you. And guess
Mm.
what? The reason why we build everything, or I built everything inside of my programs and my curriculum to be measurable and quantifiable, is because at that point, it's evidence-based and you can make a decision and be pure and at peace with that decision. So if you do all this work intentionally and you have evidentially changed and your wife is like, yeah, dude, I'm not into that, fuck off, then you can go, I'm at peace with that and I'm going to move on. And then
Yeah.
you're good. And then you don't have that future regret because you did everything you knew possible, and then
Yeah. So, okay.
that's on them. And if
Yeah.
you choose to stay with someone that isn't going to do the work on them, isn't committed to them, the thing that I think is, what else can I do to inspire or empower this person? What am I maybe taking from this person? Am I causing this person to feel less than? Am I still causing her to not feel seen or heard or valued or powerful? And most of the time, that's the answer. These guys like me, are a little more assertive, aggressive, abrasive, whatever.
Hmm.
We're pushing down so hard on our wives that, like, it's so unfair for us to say, yeah, but she's not doing the work either.
Sure.
And
Yeah.
I go, well, you focus on you, dude. Like, because if she leaves your ass, it's just you. So focus on you. Either way, you do the work on you. You're going to be better off in the marriage, or you'll be better off single. Either way, you'll
Yeah.
be better off.
And you'll have no regrets. I
And
mean,
you'll have no
it sounds
regrets.
like that's the key point there. Is you want to do everything you can so that you have no regrets, even if
Yeah.
it's not working out, and then you're at least empowered.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what were some of the changes that you made? So you had this kind of come to Jesus moment with your wife, and changed your personal development strategies, but you were burned. As I understand it, you were burned out before that. You were working hard. You were really pushing. You were hustling.
Yeah.
You're still an entrepreneur today. I mean, you're doing a lot of
Yeah.
the same things, and you're still doing the work. How do you strike the balance? And what changed to make it so that you're more irreplaceable?
I changed my relationship with money.
Yeah.
Yeah. Changed my relationship with money and what money means and what it does. And, all those different things. Like, it completely changed the relationship with money. So yeah, I'm an entrepreneur. I run a successful business, and the mindset's very different on what the money can do. Before, it provided this, facade of my value as a man and as a husband and as a, member of society. And today it's just a byproduct of the passionate, purposeful activity that I do in my business.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's a big difference. It's a really big difference, and I live in a town where ego rules, man. I live in LA, like, ego rules here. And so the work that I did on me was to remove the ego and the necessity for money to justify who I am.
Mm-hmm.
And so when that work, and that took a long time, like, when that work really started to take traction, like get traction, it was amazing to see how different I had become. And when I say, the change you make, or like how different I become, I don't mean I changed who I was. I mean, I let go of the man that I was acting as, which is the replaceable, inauthentic me.
Mm-hmm.
And what was just there automatically is the authentic, irreplaceable you. So you don't have to be different. You're just getting rid of the stuff that no longer serves, no longer works, just isn't prevalent for your life anymore. Just, if you're not getting the result that you want for your life, it's you, 100% you, and you got to change your formula up, because there's a formula for everything, and there's a result that happens after you run a formula, right? 1 + 1 is 2. You can't feel like it's 4. You can't say it's Wednesday, so it might be 3. It is what it is, right? It's math. And if there's anybody listening that doesn't believe in math, or you're one of those weirdos, like, turn this off. You don't need to hear this.
This is about the time where I tell you it is a flat Earth show. So
right. So like if you have that kind of mindset, you're not going to do this kind of work. So
sure,
you keep listening, because you're an info addict, mate, most likely, and like, we'll try and help you as best we can. But no, like, the formula is you. You're the main component. You're the operator of the machine. If the formula isn't giving you the result that you want, then you got to go back through the formula and figure out what components are the main guys, right?
Mm-hmm.
Money for me was the main guy. Ego, value, mindset around money, my belief around my marriage, my fear around loving my wife fully. I mean, you can listen to the podcast that I did on my podcast. Like now my wife and I record every single one. Your episode will come out soon, so don't worry. Um, and I said to her on that first one back in February, January 28th, my good buddy Keith Yackey challenged me and he said, look, man, I think you're hitting a ceiling. I think men being on purpose is a byproduct of what you do. It's not the brand and it's not the message. I think you need to change it. And throughout this weekend, one of the most powerful little masterminds I've ever been to, he said to me, it's not it. And I kept saying, it's this, what about this? What about this? And finally he said to me, what drove you, dude? You build exercises like you're a professional, education director. Like you're insane with this stuff. It's really amazing, but like you're insane with it. What kind of fear, what drove you? And when I said, I wanted to be this irreplaceable husband that my wife never want to leave, like want to be with forever, want to hang with, want to have sex with, want to be with forever, like, really together. And he said, so why isn't it the Irreplaceable Man? And I said, what's interesting is I trademarked and got the .com a long time ago. And I think, Keith, I need you to ask me and challenge me to why I didn't pull the trigger. And so we went through that and he helped me work through it. By the way, when you choose a mentor or a coach, like this is the reason why most psychologists, marriage counselors, therapists are quacks, and they're never going to help you because they don't do their own work. They don't take their own medicine, right? Their audio doesn't match their video. When you're modeling after somebody, it's got to be somebody that actually does the work and you can see the evidence. So they don't preach from a book, they preach from real life.
Yeah, you have somebody who has something that you want.
Yeah.
You got to follow a mentor. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and Keith was that guy at that time. And so I drove back from Orange County. It was like 80 miles. It's 10 o'clock at night. I sat in the kitchen for hours with my wife and I just said, here's the idea. You have to be involved or I'm not doing this without you. What do you think? And she goes, I think that's it. I think that's exactly where we need to be, where you need to be. It's going to be very confronting. It's going to hold you really accountable. You're going to have to be even more honest than you already are. And then the first episode we did that Monday, I said to her, I just want to start out by telling you that I've been afraid to love you fully. And she was like, really? And I said, yeah. And what we agreed to was that if we have some real breakdowns or some real discoveries, when the mic's open, it's open and we share because other guys are going to need to know this stuff. So yeah, we talk in private all the time and we share everything on the mic. So there's a level of accountability that is beyond anything we've been used to. So we cleared that space and I said, I've been afraid to love you fully. And I think that's why I was running my old business Men on Purpose, because if I jump in fully and I make this thing what I truly want, which has always been marriage and relationships, if I do this and you still leave, you'll crush my entire world, personal, professional. You'll hurt my money. You'll hurt my ego. Like you'll crush me. And I said, I didn't realize that until this weekend. And I said, she goes, well, why is that? Like, I love you fully. And I'm like, yeah. And I thought I loved you fully too. I think that what Keith helped me discover was that there's a part of me that still thinks with the level of resentment and regret you have based on the man who I was and how I operated and who I showed up as and how I hurt you, like you will never be able to get over that. And eventually you'll just leave no matter what effort I put in. So I just held back. And so like a great mentor, a great coach can help you discover things at the foundational level that can change your entire life. And I'm going to tell you right now, Keith Yackey changed my entire life in that 2 days I was with him. And I give him major props. Other guys there too. Like there's a ton of other guys there. Mark Santiago, another guy from Empowered Man. Like these guys, I didn't pay to go there. They invited me. It was 12 guys. They all took me under their wing and were just so helpful and loving. And all of them were exuding, the audio and the video. They were all doing the work and they all had problems. Like we all have problems. I don't have any, I don't not have problems. Still a ton of problems,
Right.
Just have structures to be able to move through them quickly, to be able to tap into that fuel source quickly and say, hey, I'm not willing to deal with this anymore. It's probably one of the big key phrases is I'm not willing to deal with this. So now I'm going to build a structure to freaking move through it and leave it where it belongs, which is in the past.
Yeah. It's such a subtle but important distinction that you made there, and difference that you brought up there, which is going from the Men on Purpose to the Irreplaceable Man.
Yeah.
And, seeing that from the outside and saying, man, hugely successful podcast, but great following, great brand name. I mean, the name Men on Purpose, I thought
Yeah,
was a wonderful name.
I did too.
Yeah. And so I was like, what's happening there? But hearing the story and knowing that it's bringing you to a place of more authenticity and vulnerability is huge. And that's such a big part, such a big piece of that. And it's a good, bold move to actually prove to your audience how you are going to that, authenticity. Do you think that's, when we think about something like masculinity, a lot of people look at that as kind of a polarizing word, like masculinity, it's toxic, whatever. But is that beautiful masculinity in there? Is that where that comes from? Is that vulnerability, that authenticity, or where do you think masculinity should be?
In the business?
Just in our relationships and how we show up in the world as men.
I mean, really, it comes down to decisiveness, right? There's a lot of guys that are in my programs or inside of our community that or text me because they listen to the podcast or DM me or something, and they'll say, I know I have an issue with masculinity. My wife's so masculine and she drives this family. I don't know where I fit in. And I say, well, this work is what's going to help you understand how to get what's holding your masculinity down, how to release your masculinity, because your wife doesn't want to be that masculine. She's that masculine for survival, right? Mm-hmm. Imagine if you're a caveman and it's you, cave wife, I guess, cave woman there, cave children there.
Right.
And, maybe like, and your parents or something, like, and you're cave people and you're just chilling, and the masculine of the family, like the masculine energy original drive, the man, gets eaten by a dinosaur. I don't know. Were cavemen around the dinosaurs? I don't know. Whatever.
We'll say they are. Yeah.
The caveman, the guy, he gets eaten by an animal.
Yeah.
Well, in that moment, the way we're trained, the way the amygdala in our brain is trained, the way our limbic system is trained. By the way, I started studying psychology and trauma at a very deep level at that point. So that's another piece that I forgot to add is I started to understand how the brain works, the limbic system, the central nervous system, and how the vagus nerve runs things, and how serotonin and norepinephrine is made in the gut. Like I started to really study that so I could know what my body was doing. And at every turn, I wanted to get my feelings out of the way. Mm-hmm. Right. So I could, one, base everything off of evidence, and two, so I could understand my real feelings, because those feelings were just protection. So anyway, the cave guy dies. Well, the wife and kids don't just go, okay, well, let's lay down and we're just going to die. The wife steps into masculine energy, starts making decisions and takes action. Now, she might have a learning curve, but she will step into that masculine. That's what a lot of guys who aren't in their masculine, their wives are driving the family. But their wife doesn't want to go, hey, here's a list of what to do. Go do it. They don't want to do that. It might seem like really great, but they don't want to do that. They've been masculine driven because of their past. And you're in charge of providing this space for your wife to step off her masculine into her feminine, feel like a woman again, like be in flow, not in decisiveness. And you step in and be decisive. So like, that's the first thing that comes to mind when I think about masculinity. And God, what's his name? Youngblood, G.S. Youngblood has a great book called The Masculine in Relationships. And he talks about that in that book, which is if you have a dynamic in your relationship that you don't like and your marriage is going crazy, it's because your wife is too masculine. She doesn't want to be that. She has to be that. One, because of her programming, and two, because you're falling short at every angle and you've broken every trust with her. By the way, there's 6, and we can go over them too. And she's never going to step into her feminine, and she's pissed off at you and she's resentful to you because you want to allow her to step into that. And so the guy can start taking these small steps to make decisions for the family. Like, if the trash needs to go out, go do it. Don't your wife shouldn't have to tell you. I mean, my wife does tell me sometimes because I'll walk by it like 20 times, intending to take it out after everybody goes to bed.
Oh, don't we all?
Hey,
yeah.
You keep walking by, are you going to take that out? And I go,
right.
I'm going to take it out. I got it. You don't have to remind me.
Yeah.
That's my responsibility, my commitment. And obviously there's other masculine, traits and pieces, but I think the decisiveness is one of the biggest ones because, I think over time, just pattern wise from from thousands of people that I've talked to is the decisiveness in your relationship and for yourself. Like, do you even choose for you? Do you make yourself a priority? Do you put yourself first? And the answer for most of the guys listening is no.
Yeah.
Especially successful guys. Maybe they go to the gym and they think that's putting themselves first, but it's not. It's just another distraction tactic to avoid talking to your wife about deep stuff.
Yeah. 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 It's so true. And even as you say that, it's like, where am I doing that? And I need to go out and take the trash out later on. I know that
I do my trash nights tonight. I got
it. Right. Yeah. And so I appreciate kind of bringing that up. And decisiveness is it's so, it's something that we don't think a lot. I mean, even in work, we're both run businesses and things like that. We're making decisions all the time. I almost want to just go home and just say, I don't want to make any decisions.
Right.
You just decide on what's for dinner, decide on this, decide on that.
Yeah.
And I'm totally guilty of that.
Well, there's also that part of us that needs to be in our feminine too.
Yeah.
I think a lot of guys are scared of that. Feminine is not putting on a dress. Feminine is allowing yourself to just be in the flow for a second, allowing yourself to not have to make decisions and just be with yourself. Meditation, drinking wine. Wine's very feminine.
Yeah.
And like, it's not feminine, like derogatory, like it used to be, this old adage, like men who are feminine or, what's the other, like metrosexual. That's not a thing. The feminine energy is a very different thing than what you do on the outside. And so we have to have a balance of that, right? That's yin and yang. We have to have a balance of masculine and feminine energy. I really enjoy an active meditation practice called Qigong, which mixes the two because your muscles are activated, but your arms are also in flow and your body's in just loose flow. Qigong, Qigong. Qigong.
Okay. And how does that work? What are you doing during that?
So it's like best way to describe it is like almost like interpretive dance, slow, very, flowy, intentional movements, very like tracking your hand, very slow movements with a very intentional breath in and out, but maybe you're in a full squat or, or maybe your arms are up and you're going up and down, but you're pulling energy up and through like your meridian lines and your chakras and things like that. So it is foo-foo and woo-woo or whatever. But I really like it because it balances. It lets me feel powerful in my stance. My back feels straight. Like I feel very confident, yet not to say that you can if you're not masculine driven, but like I feel very confident and masculine driven. And and my body's just in this like beautiful flowy state because there's no chop movements. It's all flow. And it's like ballet, yoga, meditation, interpretive dance mixed.
Yeah. And that makes a lot of sense. And I know a lot of these meditations, especially where we're integrating our posture and our movements. I mean, really just changing your posture changes your confidence, changing the way you breathe. So just forcing those kinds of exercises is huge. I don't want to leave this conversation without talking a little more about the Irreplaceable Man and where you're going with that, what you're doing, what you're building. Because I know that you've made a lot of changes and you're making a big shift and even incorporating, conversations with your wife on the podcast. Can you talk a little bit more about where you're going with it?
Yeah, this table's making a lot of noises. I'm one of those like adjustables. I think it was like, I thought it was catching on fire or something. The pivot was like ultimate confrontation and not in a negative way, in a positive way. Ultimate confrontation of like, here's what I'm scared of. Here's what I've been through. And if you don't believe me, the lady that went through it with me is going to sit right next to me and comment on it. And I'm going to be at peace with that. And she's going to be at peace with what I talk about. And we're going to share our experiences of how we have our challenges and we get through stuff and how we create space for each other and how we, stop arguments in the middle of an argument, like how we do things to really make sure that our relationship is a priority and we're the best partners for each other. So in our own personal world and our own, and bringing that into the marriage. And so, I mean, man, it's been like 110 days or 115 days. I mean, whatever today is, say 23rd. So it's been 100 and, I don't know. It's whatever. The end of February 1st is when I made the brand change. February 1st.
Yeah.
And March, April, May. I mean, it's like 90, almost 120 days. So
Yeah.
110 days. And it's just, I mean, it's a 180. It's been a completely 180. And what we want to be is a place, a space where men can come and get support and the structure and the systems and the sustainability that they need, right? And the strategy to actually take action quickly, not a place where they come and then they get pitched. Because, dude, I can tell you right now, out of the 10 calls I've had this week with prospect calls, every single guy, and they all say it every week, every single guy has said, so that's it? Like, you're not going to pitch me? And I'm like, no. And then when I say, what'd you get that was valuable out of this call? And they'll say, well, that you didn't, like, it really was about me. You really did make it about me. Like, I felt like somebody actually gave a shit about me and you didn't have an agenda. I'm like, bro, you got to understand, this is a business and I do want to get you in my program. Even if you don't join, I want to make sure that if you come through the world of Irreplaceable Man and you're in my world somehow, that you have gotten something to course correct you and you can take another step confidently with that, right? So the other thing that we're giving guys is, besides the structure, strategy, support for sustainability, is clarity on where they're going and why, and what their relationship actually looks like for the future, the confidence to start to build who they are and like build up inside, and then the courage to actually execute on their plan, which they really never had. You're not getting that from most programs. So I want guys to enter our world and feel like it's a safe space for them to share their breakdowns and like what they're experiencing with their wives, or that they hate themselves, or that they don't find any value, or whatever it might be. They're a bad dad or whatever. It's their journey. I want them to have that space to be able to do that, and then have tons of free resources to start working with. And if that's what they need and I can provide it, I'm really happy with that. And if they decide to join our programs, which most of them do, I'm happy with that too. Like, I will be the axis shift, so to speak, in their lives. And that's what I intended when I built all these exercises in the company. When guys come to me, they'll always look back on the Irreplaceable Man and say, that's where my life shifted for the good. And it was sustainable. And that was my intention. Like, it has to be sustainable. It can't be, they went through my 90-day program or my 6-month program, or came to one of my retreats, or, listen to the podcast. They're like, yeah, that's cool. Whatever. Didn't really get anything out of that. Or I got 2 months worth and then I got to find another place to take me the rest of the way. All the exercises are built for a lifetime. So I still use them today. My wife uses them. Like, I've got clients that have been with me 3-4 years. They still use them. They're built to help you at every single level that you hit in your growth.
Yeah. Well, that's such a key. I'm glad you touched on that, because it's such a key to knowing that you found an amazing coach who knows what they're doing and knows that they want to help you, is because they don't try and pitch you right away. Because you, just in addition to, your clients, your potential clients, you're vetting them just as much as they're vetting you.
Yeah, totally.
I mean, because it sounds like you don't want the people that are just addicted to personal development. They really want to have, they have to want it.
Yeah. And I have had a lot of coaches in my life, and there have been 3 that showed me the way to do this. And what I feel is a very selfless, effective way for others. It's a true leadership journey, which is you add value and you'll win through them. Right.
Yeah.
Versus like, all right, here's my pipeline and I got to pitch here. And like 15 minutes in, I'm going to pitch them once and I pitch them a second time. And by the end of the call, I pitched them 4 times. And like, my law of odds are, I used to do that. Like, I got fucking crazy with that. I hated that.
Yeah.
Because I felt obligated to have to pitch. I have all these employees that got bills to pay. Like, I felt obligated to have to pitch. And I'm like, this guy doesn't need to be pitched right now. He needs to be loved. He needs to feel like somebody gives a shit about him, because nobody gives a shit about him in his life, according to him. Like, he just needs to know that somebody's there for him. And so there's 3 places. One is a group called Clients and Community, who taught me how to build my Facebook group. Chris Stapleton and oh my God, I'm blanking. I'm so sorry. Oh my God. Whatever. I'll think about it. It's Jaden, Chris, and like, I'm completely blanking on the third guy. I'm so sorry.
No, that's all right.
And then the other one was a guy named Alok, and we were on the phone for like 2.5 hours the first call. And I said to him, like, at the end, he goes, all right, brother, I'm at peace with this convo. And I'm like, cool, man. Thank you. And he was like, all right, so let's book another call And if you want to talk about my programs, we can. If not, my call's on you too, man. It's all about you. And I'm like, what? I never heard of this.
Yeah.
So much value present that you naturally decide you want to do something while I pitch. This is crazy. And then and Alok really like drove that home. And then the third one was my coach, Steve Wiltshire, who is my current coach, who's just an absolute beautiful soul. And like just never pitched me.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, I know this guy charges a lot of money. Like, what the hell? And we did like 3 or 4 calls, and he was on my podcast. You can actually, I don't think his episode's released yet. Like, you'll be able to listen to him. And he said, brother, I just want to be in your world. And if you just want to work with me, that's amazing, man. And if not, I love being in your world. I'm like, who are these guys? And so when I rebuilt Irreplaceable Man, or I rebranded Mental Purpose to Irreplaceable Man, I changed every aspect, including like the funnel and the trajectory of a lead to a client, to be all about them.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's like, it's like 1,000% increase in production, because I'm spending an hour with each guy that has no agenda on it except, how can I add more value? How can I help you course correct? What's one thing you can say to your wife right now to get her to believe that you're going to do this work and not just be an info addict? So I think we've got something really amazing here. And I'm like, dude, I'm so proud of it. It's so nice. It really is so nice to have this kind of clarity and alignment.
Well, you should be so proud of that. And go figure, adding a ton of value for free works.
I know.
What do you know?
I know, but that's new. That's not what Dale Carnegie taught
No.
me. That's like when I was at Tony Robbins, that's not what Tony Robbins taught me. Like, it was pitch.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah.
And that's also like the high volume game too.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, and it's so much more satisfying. I mean, I know that a lot of people can thrive on that. I mean, and maybe it's the hustle culture, but thrive in the high volume kind of pitch. Yeah. But I'm so much more, I love the surgical approach so much more, just like knowing that you're connecting with people that are authentic, that are relatable. And that's why I love this format. And people have a lot to learn from you, my friend. I think, especially through your podcast, The Irreplaceable Man, which you could check out now on YouTube and wherever podcasts are shown, Spotify, all that good stuff. And so last question to kind of put you on the spot here. What can people do today, or just like, starting now, to make them more irreplaceable in their homes? Is there any gold nuggets that you could share just to help men out there that might be struggling?
Yeah, I feel like you teed me up for a pitch, and I'm gonna take it.
Sure, take it.
Like, honestly, there are 12 patterns that I found throughout my journals, throughout all the documents that I built for my clients. There are 12 patterns, both in my own work and the client's work, that I found are places to start. So I don't want to just give you one. If I give you one, it's own your shit, take it all on. It's all on you. That's the one. It's all on you. Stop blaming, stop passing it on, stop thinking it's your government or the president or your local mayor, or you're like, I mean, I hear people here all the time complain about the governor. I'm like, who gives a shit? You see it outside? Like, you see the ocean? You live in Southern California? Like, shut your mouth. Right. It is great. It's gray outside for the last 3 weeks, but like, aside from that, like, shut up, live your life. It's not,
preach.
Like, you want to do something about it, then go run for office.
Yeah.
Or shut up. And I just remove myself from those kind of environments. So it's all on you. When you adopt the mindset that it's all on me, my life, my results for my life, my marriage, my body, my business, it's all on me. When you have that mindset, you're a much more effective leader for yourself, your family, your children, your business. And yeah, it does have to do with other people. Yet your mindset is, it's all on me and I will drive this thing. So that's the one. But if you go to irreplaceableman.com, it's literally just, it's not even a website. It just gives you my 12-step guide where I assembled everything. It's free. You just go and download it. And then there's some other free resources. Like, if you put your email in, there's additional free resources that will come to you through like email sequence that I built, because I want to pump value into you, right? I want you to be like, man, that, holy shit, the Irreplaceable Man, like that, it changed my life, And I didn't even work with the guy. I just got his free stuff and it changed my life. So that was my intention. So there's 12, and the number one would be own your shit, take it all on. It's all on you.
Yeah.
So
please go ahead.
I'm gonna send you an email with all these other resources that I kind of alluded to today. They're all free. Like, you just go and download them. You can listen to the podcast. Guys can come on and listen to the podcast live on Mondays at 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern. My wife and I are going to be live, and we do Q&A every Monday. And then on Thursday, we have a free training inside the group at 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern, where we take the Monday's topic, which is usually trust, communication, connection, or intimacy, that's really everything. And then I do Q&A, and I go through my notes, and then I give you my notes from the podcast with questions, homework, like discussion topics. And it's free. You can come and just do that. And I like that. I'm at peace with that.
That's huge, man. That's really huge, and I appreciate that. And that's a big give. And I encourage everybody who's listening out there, go to the website, irreplaceableman.com. Sign up for that, and check out the Irreplaceable Man podcast and all of these resources that are being provided to you free of charge. They'll change your life.
It will.
And Ian, I'm grateful for you, man, because you've been a blessing in my life for the short time I've known you, and I've been grateful to have these 3 conversations with you thus far.
Even though the first one was a bonehead conversation, and hundreds of episodes of podcasts that I've done, I forgot to record the one with Adam. It's so stupid. It's so dumb.
But it was a great conversation, though.
It really was, man. I appreciated the hell out of it. I just, I felt bad about wasting your time. It wasn't a waste of time. You know what I mean? Like, then we had to re-record again, and we had an even better conversation, I think.
Absolutely. Yeah. And you can check that out on the Irreplaceable Man podcast coming soon. And thank you, Ian. I appreciate being here, and to everyone else out there, thanks for joining us today. We will see you next time. Hey, everyone. I hope you're enjoying this episode. If you've been listening for a while, you know how important community and mentorship is to living a life of abundance above your fears. If you want to connect with me, hear about new offerings, episodes, and strategies to live with conviction, courage, and clarity, then sign up for my newsletter now. It's a way to stay connected to me outside of social media and bring a little empowerment to your inbox, and maybe a few dad jokes here and there. Sign up now at adamcliffordhill.com. Hey, everyone. Thanks for tuning in to the Flow Over Fear podcast. If you'd like to learn more about getting into flow and learn the foundations of flow, I have a free video series on my website at www.adamcliffordhill.com called The Foundations of Flow. Feel free to go there and download it and start your journey to rising above fear and achieving greater flow in your life. If you like this episode, and I'm guessing you did if you stuck around for this long, then please do me a favor and hit the subscribe button, and you will receive notifications when I have new interviews, new recaps, and new trainings that pop up on YouTube. Thanks again for joining us.